Hi, I'm Jeff Walters, and welcome to The Minutes. And thanks for listening today. It's great to have you along on The Minutes this week. This is a City of Thunder Bay podcast. The Minutes takes a look at what happened at Thunder Bay City Council this past week. But this week we have a special edition of the show, looking at how the City of Thunder Bay operates. We have a feature interview with city management explaining how city services run all year long. You can find The Minutes wherever you get your podcasts, including our YouTube channel and our website, thunderbay.ca/theminutes. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening at City Hall, just hit that subscribe button. On today's episode, most of us use them daily. I'm talking about roads. Roads crews work year-round throughout Thunder Bay, plowing, filling in potholes, and sweeping the road network throughout our city. We'll hear how the roads crews keep our transportation network moving year-round with roads manager Ian Spoljarich. Well, virtually everybody uses these in Thunder Bay daily. Roads, you either drive on them, maybe you're a passenger, or maybe you use a road or a sidewalk for a stroll. Roads crews work year-round in Thunder Bay, but what some of their tasks are might actually surprise you. Ian Spoljarich is the manager of roads in Thunder Bay. Ian, thanks for coming into the Minute Studio today.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Okay, so year-round, there's lots to do when it comes to road maintenance. Probably most people think of road work as a summer item. So let's start with the summer season, I guess. What do they do in the summer?
Yeah, so once all the snow melts, first thing we start doing is street sweeping. As soon as those temperatures get above freezing, we'll start getting the street sweepers out, getting all that material that accumulated over the winter off the roads. We start patching potholes, we do line painting, we do culvert repairs, ditching, sign repairs, grading gravel roads, grading backlane gravel sections as well, sidewalk repairs as well. So a lot of work in that spring and summer season. When
we talk about just street sweeping, we'll start there, I guess. How does it work? Because you've got a number of vehicles that all kind of seem to work together to get that done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're kind of broken up into two sides, north and south. So we'll have a crew in the north side and a crew in the south side. And we go out usually with 3 sweepers and 2 to 3 sidewalk plows that then they put a broom on to sweep off the sidewalks. And then we have a couple tandem dump trucks as well. So then they'll pick up the material off the road, dump them in the trucks, and then the trucks take it to the landfill.
And why the landfill? Like it's just gravel, right? Or is there more to it than that?
There's a little more to it as well. So there is some contaminants in it as well. If there's salt or just garbage, stuff that we don't want to be putting back. So we'll take it to the landfill.
And is it just dumped, or is it actually used again at the landfill too?
Depends what kind of product we're bringing. We'll determine it once we get to site.
Okay. So you don't take a look, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we talked about line painting, that was something that you mentioned. I guess it's more than just the lines down the middle of the street, right? There's a bit more to it than that.
Yeah. Correct. So yeah. Everyone knows the yellow lines and the white lines, but we're also doing the turning signals. So the white turning, we're doing the bike markings as well. So there's green, and then we're doing the crosswalks.
Okay, and then the stop bars.
And the stop bars. Yes.
I think
that's important. Yeah.
I've got a friend who did that as a summer job for a number of years.
Okay.
And he said it was like you kind of do that more in the middle of the night than you do middle of the day.
Yeah. So we start that crew typically around 5 a.m. and we try to get in there before the traffic picks up, and then they'll move on to quieter locations throughout the day.
Okay, fair enough. That makes a bit more sense to me than, you're not doing Memorial at 9 a.m., right?
No, we try not to unless we absolutely have to. But yeah, we do those busy locations early in the morning, and then we go to quieter residential areas throughout the day.
Sure, okay. Something that you mentioned there is potholes. I'm sure that kind of even just sends a shiver up your spine hearing about potholes.
I'm getting used to it now, yeah.
Okay. So how do you patch a pothole?
Yeah, a good question. So during the winter or even spring season, so we don't have access to hot mix asphalt, made at an asphalt plant. So we have cold mix. So it's more of a temporary repair. It comes in bags or it comes in large pre-made quantities that we store on site. So we have crews go out and they try to clear the hole first of any debris. They'll put the material down and then they'll pack it. And then we also have the Python 5000 that goes out and kind of does the same. Yeah, so we can talk about that more in detail as well. But kind of does the same thing, but it's a one-person crew operated just by the one person. They go out, traffic control is all taken care of, cleans out the hole, puts the material and packs it as well.
When they're doing it by hand,
Yeah.
and they pack it down, like I've seen them with the tampers and the shovels and that sort of stuff, it just doesn't seem to last that long when you have the cold mix.
Yes, like I said, it is more of a temporary repair, and a lot of times we're dealing with either ice in the hole or water in the hole, which makes it more difficult to stick as well. So that cold mix, typically doesn't last until the summer, but if it does, great, and if not, then we get there with the hot mix, and then we do a permanent repair.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, so how is hot mix different than cold mix? So, like, obviously temperature, based on the title, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and it's made that day. The oil content's different. Everything's different. The compaction different. And again, you're working with a dry hole. You're working in warmer temperatures, and it's just made to last longer.
And then when we're talking potholes, we're talking these are smaller fixes, right? It's not like it's something that goes across a city street or a big patch. How big can you do by hand, and how big do you have to say, oh, we can't do that by hand anymore?
Yeah, so we do large patches by hand as well, and then we have a small roller compactor as well, and we'll go and we'll rake it out and we'll pack it down. But we can do pretty big patches.
Oh,
with
okay.
hand crew, yeah.
What about the Python 5000? Tell me about that machine.
Yeah, that one does just the smaller one, so that can't really do a bigger repair. But again, yeah, we typically, right now it's out actually today. It's a good time of year to do that. Because we have a lot of crews busy, dealing with snow and flooding and other concerns like that. So he is out in the busier sections taking care of those holes.
Okay. And has the Python 5000 made it easier to do potholes with just one person instead of having that bigger crew?
Yeah. So when we are kind of dealing with a lot of issues at the same time or a lot of work at the same time, it does make it easier that you just need one person to go out there, because typically our pothole crews are 2, 3, sometimes 5 people, depending on the size of the job. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize it was that many people to a pothole crew.
Yeah.
And then the Python, we only have one of those, right?
We do, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Would there be a demand for a second one?
Potentially. I think we're going to have to do that review once it kind of comes to end of life and see where we're at.
Yeah, fair enough. Other big jobs that crews do in the summer. We talked about line painting. We talked about sweeping. Is there any other kind of maintenance things that you have to do in the summer?
Yeah, so I mentioned also sidewalk repairs as well. So, typically we do 1 slab or 2 slab smaller jobs, but sometimes there is the need for larger sections for that. Yeah, like I said, a lot of ditching work. That's time consuming and sometimes stretches for weeks depending on where we're doing the ditching and if there's a lot of culvert resets as well. Bridge repairs as well. We're always on the bridges repairing those and cleaning those and making sure those are good for the summer.
And how are bridge repairs? Like, I don't really know what the city can do for bridge repairs. I just think of the deck, and that's about it. Is there more to it than that?
Yeah, sometimes. Typically, that's what we're dealing with. Same thing, the potholes and cracks, we're trying to fix on that. But then also there's some railing. They get hit by vehicles or equipment sometimes that we need to go in there and fix those as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking also, you mentioned something there, ditching and culverts. We take care of all that too.
We do, yeah. So we take care of all the ditching throughout the city. If it goes if it goes through a private entrance or person's property, we also maintain that culvert and ditch in front of their property.
Okay, so that would be like when you're going from the road onto a driveway.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And if we think of the shoulder seasons, so you kind of mentioned spring and summer there. Anything different that happens in the fall?
Yeah. So fall's a challenge. So we pick up all the leaves once they start to fall, but every tree kind of falls at a different time. So there is a challenge there to try to pick them all up at the same time or get it before it starts getting cold and starts freezing to the ground. So usually that starts, anywhere late October to early November, and we try to get done before the end of November. So maybe 4 to 6 week window that we can pick up those leaves.
And is that longer than it takes you to sweep them in the spring?
No, that's shorter. Yeah, we only have a small window. By the time they start falling until it starts freezing, like I said, it's only a very small window that we can pick those up.
And then the spring cleaning, though, that takes you quite a while then.
Yeah, so typically arterial collectors, downtown cores take around 8 weeks, give or take. And then we go into residential streets, which is about 8 weeks as well.
And you've got the zones, right, for residentials?
We do. So we have 10 zones in the south and 11 zones in the north.
Okay. And why did you do the zone concept?
Yeah, so that started before my time, but the theory behind it is that everyone's residential area would kind of take turns being first. So we start in certain sections and it rotates. So every year, if you were 1 this year, you'll be 2 next year and so on.
Okay, so you move up a
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah. So you eventually get longer before you get to your neighborhood. But then again, you'd be the first and so on.
Right. So every 1 out of 10 years or 1 out of
Yeah.
11, you're going to
Yeah.
be first.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I've heard people say this before. He'll do the arterials or the collector roads. They'll be swept.
Yeah.
And then they'll be done again. Why are they done a couple times throughout the year?
Yeah, because they do have a lot more traffic on them. So it does pick up a lot more debris, just even coming off trucks. And as well as safety. So people are riding their bikes on there. A lot more vehicles are traveling. A lot more people are walking. So we try to keep those clean and free of debris, just so there is no issues. Or again, we want to make the city look nice as well.
Okay, so and roads are just more than roads then, right? So it's ditching, culvert. Do you guys do trails and sidewalks as well?
So in the winter, we plow trails. And then in the summer, that is looked after by our park section.
Okay, so you've got trails for part of the year.
Yeah, for the winter section, yeah, we have them. And then in the summer, parks takes them over.
Okay, you mentioned winter there. That's my next question was. So I think plowing is the obvious one. Tell me a bit about how we do snow plowing here in Thunder Bay.
Yeah, so we have about 60 plus staff with 60 plus pieces of equipment. And for a snowfall of 10 centimeters, we kind of call that a full plow. And we'll go do all the arterials, collectors, and residential streets. Arterial collectors and bus routes, that's at 5 centimeters. So when we go out to do those arterial collectors and bus routes, typically it's at 2 a.m. It takes us about 5 to 7 hours to complete. And then at 9 a.m. we go into residential, and that takes typically around 72 hours to get all those residential streets done.
So that's a pretty good amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you need to go, and how do you space those crews, right? Because you mentioned two kind of times there. I'm guessing you don't have someone working 2 a.m. till 9 p.m.
Right. Yeah. So that's if the snow comes in perfectly, and we can start at 2 a.m. It doesn't always work that way. Like we had just a snowstorm there on Friday. It didn't really start snowing hard until 2 a.m. and we started plowing at 4 a.m. So everything kind of gets pushed back a bit. But usually our crews would work from 2 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. that day. And then we do have sanders that come on in between until the crew can come back in at 2 a.m. So there's a certain amount of hours that they need off before working again.
Okay, so that's actually a long day.
It is a very long day for them, yeah.
Okay, so maybe, at 4:30, give them a little wave, right?
It is tiring. They do take a lot of pride in their work, but it is a long, tiring day for sure.
And is there a difference also in if we get more snow? I'm thinking of you have the blowers on the front versus just a plow. How does that change what you have to do?
Yeah, so for streets, it doesn't change too much unless we have a significant large snowfall. Then obviously it'll put us behind. For sidewalks, again, going back to the snowstorm we had on Friday, we need to put the blowers on. So then that kind of extends our timelines for when we need those sidewalks completed.
Okay, yeah. So I guess a couple extra days added on.
It gives us 2 extra days. So when we use the blades, it's 3 days, and when we use the blowers, it's about 5 days.
Oh, that's a big difference then.
Yeah.
And why can't they do as fast?
Sorry, yeah. So when you're using the blowers, you just go slower. It's just the way the equipment's designed for safety and for productivity as well.
Okay, fair enough. And I know this winter we've had a bit of a, some warm ups, some cool downs. Like we're not seeing just consistent cold anymore, it seems. How does that change your operations as well?
Yeah, so that creates another challenge because when everything's cold and frozen, we can plow it off, we can sand, we can deal with those issues. When we see those warmer temperatures during the day, we see a lot of melting, and then we see some flooding as a result of that, and we need to go clear catch basins, try to clear frozen culverts as well. But then as it melts during the day, it freezes again overnight and creates ice on the sidewalks and on the roads that we need to go deal with in the morning and just try to make sure that everyone can get around safely.
And I guess it's impossible just to clear all that water in a day, right?
Yeah, no matter what, even if the sidewalks are bare, it melts during the day, it comes off the snowbanks, and it always funnels to where the sidewalk is, unfortunately.
Okay. And then how long does it take you, or I shouldn't say how long, because I know every situation's a little different, but clearing catch basins and is that you guys again, or is that someone else that has to come in and help you?
Yeah, so it's roads typically, and sometimes our sewer and water division comes in as well, depending what's going on. There's no real timeline for it. It's just how the weather comes in and how many of those catch basins are frozen or covered by snowbanks. So we'll send graders out usually to go clear those snowbanks off the catch basins. And then we also have steaming crews. So they have, steam hot water, and they'll go melt the frozen catch basins and frozen culverts to get that water going again.
I know that we had some significant flooding this spring in Thunder Bay, thinking of, Hewitson Street and First Avenue and all those spots. Is that what happened? Do we have that freeze thaw, and that's kind of what happened there?
Yeah. So before that, we saw very cold temperatures for most of the winter, minus 20, minus 30. So everything's rock solid frozen.
Working as it should in the winter, right?
Yes, right? Everything's frozen. And then last Monday, we saw +6, +7, +8 temperatures. Sun came out. Sun's staying out longer now because we're getting into spring. So we saw kind of a rapid melt, and all that water is going towards that drainage channel, and it was frozen. So then everything starts backing up. And that's kind of what happened there.
And how hard is it to unthaw a channel like that?
Very, very challenging because, like I said, the whole thing's rock solid frozen. And there is some water underneath, and that's kind of the way it is designed. But when those culverts get frozen, the only thing you can do is steam through them to get it. But some of these culverts are 10, 15 feet long, and you're trying to get through it with steam, and they're 4 feet around. So it's a lot of ice to get through.
Yeah, that's a lot of steam to have to create.
Yes, and then the water starts flowing, and then it brings more ice with it, and it kind of plugs up those holes again, and you're kind of fighting that battle.
Oh, okay. So so you unthaw it, everything kind of shifts a bit, and then you have to do it all over again?
Yeah, sometimes it works great, and the flow goes, and that small hole gets bigger and bigger and bigger as the water goes through it. But sometimes ice gets back in that hole, and we're kind of start from square one again.
That sounds like a cold, wet job.
Yes. Yeah. It was a busy week for the staff, and they did a great job. And, the deal with that, along with the snowstorm that came in, it was very challenging.
So how do you, are they literally going in there with hip waders kind of thing or something like that?
Yeah. They have all their PPE on, and we make sure we're safe first. But on the one side that the water isn't flowing, it is dry because there is no water going through. So they're usually standing on the side on ice or on snow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't envy them.
No, it is a tough job for sure.
Like I've flooded a rink a few times and I've gotten wet enough just doing that, right?
Yeah. It's not a good feeling, no.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so those are kind of the big winter tasks, plowing obviously being the bigger one. Are there any other things that you guys do in the winter that maybe is very seasonal for you?
Yeah, so we have the sanders out too, so we're always going out sanding. And when the snow gets them out, we're kind of close to there now where we're seeing sightline issues at intersections. So we go out and clear those as well. And that's, we kind of concentrate on the arterial collectors, those main routes first, and then sometimes the downtown area. And if the snow gets really bad that it's impacting traffic, then we do full snow removal. So we'll shift our crews to nighttime, and then they do all that snow removal during night. And then if it snows, we have to take them off, and then they go plow the roads because we use the same staff and equipment to do both.
Okay, so so there's a bit of a dance there going on.
Yeah, and we try to look at the weather when we do snow removal to make sure that there's no storms coming in. It isn't always 100% accurate, though, as you can imagine.
Right, yeah. Forecasts aren't perfect all the time, right? Yeah. How long does it take you to pull all those banks back?
Depends how much we do. It could be a couple weeks. It could be 6 weeks. It could be a couple nights, depending on what we're dealing with. If we do full snow removal throughout the city, like we saw a couple years ago, I think it was 2022, I think we were on that midnight crew for about 4 weeks.
Oh, that's a long time.
It was a long time, yeah.
Oh, okay. Fascinating. I didn't realize that it took that long to pull the snowbanks down, but it made sense, right? Like they're, and I'm guessing they're all compacted, and it's not like it just comes off.
No, well, we have huge, like your snowblower at home. We have a huge one like that connects to our loader, and it blows it right into the back of our tandem trucks. And then we have to rent a bunch of contractor trucks, so we just don't have enough. So at some times we have about 40 trucks between the north and south removing snow, and it's a lot of snow going to our snow dump sites.
And how many snow dump sites do we have in town?
We have 2.
2? Okay. Yeah. And do they ever get full?
In 2022, very close. That was a lot of snow we were bringing there.
Okay. And then you kind of go, oh, where do we put it?
It gets to that point where it needs to stop snowing because, we're starting to run out of space. And there's always options that we could do, but it's a challenge.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You have to go to plan B kind of thing. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. When it comes to road work and road maintenance, what are some of the things that you'd like to highlight to people and say, hey, here's something that we do, or here's something that you should really know about our operations?
That's a good question. Because I feel like people, for the most part, know what we do. We're always out on the roads and we're very visible. The biggest thing is that we are out there and just safety, for me and the crews is that when we're out there working, we just sometimes like people to slow down and just, make sure that they know that we're there and we're working to fix those roads, and we'll get out of there as soon as we can.
The other thing I was going to ask you too is traffic lights and
Yes.
light standards and that. How do you guys fit into that operation?
Yeah, so we have a traffic control street lighting section as well. So they take care of, all the intersections throughout the city and the street lights throughout, the main streets and the residential streets.
All right. So coming in today, actually, I noticed there was a collision at an intersection. A vehicle had hit had hit one of the traffic light poles, I guess. That falls to you guys as well?
Yeah, so, the police or whoever has to show up there and they'll do an incident report. And then after it's clear and safe, our crews go there and they'll go make an assessment of the work that needs to be done, and they'll get that fixed as soon as they can.
And how often do you have to replace those poles, right? Like, I see some accidents around town, but not that many.
Yeah, it's more than you think, though. Yeah, like the way incidents happen at intersections, sometimes a lot of poles get hit. Yeah.
Okay. And how much work it is to replace a pole?
Depending on how much damage there is. If the whole pole is, unusable, then we have to replace it. And if the lights get damaged when they hit the ground, then we have to replace everything. Sometimes it's just a small repair. Sometimes it's a couple days, couple weeks.
And a bit of a crane, I guess, or you need something big, obviously, to put that back, right?
Yeah. We have a big truck that can lift those up and put them down as well.
Okay. Well, I don't envy your crews. They've got a few tasks to keep going on, right? Flooding, snow removal. It's supposed to snow again in a couple days, right?
Yeah, it is. But today's +6. So.
Today's +6, so
Yeah.
I'll let you enjoy the sunshine while it lasts. Ian, anything else you want to add before I let you go today?
I think so. I think we covered everything.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, appreciate you coming in today. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Ian Spoljarich, he is the manager of roads in Thunder Bay, and he joined me today in the Minutes studio. And a big thanks for watching the Minutes this week. Of course, if you want more information about City Council, agendas, or minutes, visit thunderbay.ca/council. If you want to listen to past episodes or maybe provide some feedback, visit thunderbay.ca/theminutes. You can also find the Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, you can find us on YouTube and on our website as well. That's thunderbay.ca/theminutes. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what happens at City Hall, just hit that subscribe button. I'm Jeff Walters. Thanks for listening this week. We'll chat again next week. Make it a great day.